really as big as a lot of the other medical struggles as far as, um, contributing to how difficult it is to manage, I think. And people, it hasn't been as, people haven't been as aware of that. So, anything that we can do to reduce the stigma, I think, is fabulous. And just getting your family involved like that, is that a healing process for all of you, doing the walk and being involved in,
Well, for me, I mean, this is just something I'm very passionate about. And, anytime somebody who comes to me and says my daughter or my son suffers with anxiety, I understand. I mean,
yes,
it's a struggle. And, I think part of it is environmental,
I agree.
Getting up at the crack of dawn to go to school as a high school student. I don't know if the timing's the best. They really need extra sleep. Sleep is such a critical piece, and of course nutrition. And then all this screen time that anybody, I mean, even now I'm sitting here talking on a cell phone.
It's impossible to avoid it, but how do we temper that with what we know about that medium?
What I'm trying to teach Julia, being a massage therapist and an energy healer and someone who's becoming a health and life coach, I'm trying to teach her the benefits of, eating a clean diet. And Justin too, I think he actually eats pretty clean, but, gluten or sugar, those two things in particular can really cause issues in the body, can cause inflammation, not only in the gut, but also in the brain. There's a huge gut-brain connection.
Yes, I'm learning a little bit about that from different podcasts that I've listened to. So it's like they're finding out more and more about
the importance of just meditating, even taking, 10 minutes in the morning or maybe 10 minutes at night, or a lot of times, to center myself, I love to be out in nature. So I bought Julia, a vintage beach cruiser so that she could be grounded in nature. There's something about being in nature that helps. So those are my messages.
Mm-hmm.
Get away from the screen, get off your social media. I think Justin's actually really pretty good about not doing too much social media. And, as he's getting older, of course, he's very aware of his diet. I don't think he's meditating, but I would love
still
it.
Though, he's being aware is a start.
And, I think talking through things, there's nothing wrong with going to talk therapy. I have an amazing therapist that I see. I don't see her all the time, but when I do, I really unload, and it's not necessarily because I have a problem. It's just that I'm taking her through a series of events in my life, and I want to, just talk it through with somebody and get the higher perspective. So I think the less, shame people feel in saying, I have anxiety, I have depression, I have a disorder, the better.
Right.
And,
right. We all have something. It seems like we all have something, something about us that makes us feel less than. And so everybody does.
Everybody's got something wrong. And, in terms of the mental health issues, being a parent of somebody who has a disorder, and Justin's been high functioning, but even still, it's taken a lot of time driving up to Hartford, watching this poor kid go through a big brain MRI or the kidney sonogram. It's time consuming and expensive. And I can only imagine the toll that it has taken on, parents out there trying to survive in their marriage. And, I know it's led to several divorces.
Yep.
And, like the man at the walk, his daughter, the husband, the guy left, he bolted, he couldn't handle it.
It's very hard. It's very hard to hang in there and to watch your children suffer, though, their perception of suffering is not necessarily what, I'm perceiving that they're experiencing. But I think talking about it and letting them know it's okay to cry, to scream, to talk.
Well, and the other thing that I actually love seeing you do, because I know you've had quite a journey with your family, is, we can play the role of victim, or we can participate and be a part of something much greater, be a part of the healing. Your work, Jennifer Waldron's work, Keith Hall's work, all this amazing advocacy work is all positive and uplifting. And that's what we need more of. I will say I've also seen parents, just go on and on and on about how crappy their life is because their, child has tuberous sclerosis. And yes, I understand your life is difficult, but we need to be mindful of the language that we're putting out in the universe. So if there can be some sort of a shift in our daily wording or language, maybe it'll help affect
Interesting. Yes.
not just our family, but the entire community. Instead of complaining, oh my gosh, Johnny has to try X medicine or whatever. And believe me, I can't fully understand because Justin's never really had a 4 seizures in a day, and he's not in an autistic program. I'm very blessed that he's high functioning. But I guess if he was, I would want to be an advocate as opposed to trying to play that role of victim. And that's where I'm stepping in to do work for the mental health piece of it, because I can make a difference there. I can make a difference doing healing work. And I could also go to Capitol Hill. That's something that I would really love to do. I've written letters. I haven't had the chance to go to DC with Jennifer Waldron, but I would absolutely love that. I think it would be educational and rewarding and get me a little bit more involved in the community. So I know we can only do, our part and only do so much, but it is something I'm very passionate about, helping to get the research that we need to find a cure or advance the medications or the procedures that these kids get.
Yep. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love your passion and your enthusiasm for it. And I think you're right. We have to step out of the negative mindset. I mean, I think parents that are dealing with, really intense, the medical stuff on a daily basis, it's draining. And, I know when my kids were going through some of that, I felt like I went through that process of being, almost on a daily basis of being furious and frustrated and getting the efforts or whatever. And then, realizing that wasn't going to help me in any way. And I couldn't function in that negative mindset. Now this has been a process, but yeah, I think you're onto something. Just, there's a place to vent and to, really let your frustration out. And sometimes even by sharing that, I think, people, can relate to that and say, oh yeah, I know what you're going through, and then you feel okay. Like, oh, someone else heard me. They know what this is like. So yeah, just changing the language a little bit and trying to bring, some type of positive.
Well, there is a blogger, Rebecca, out there who's
yes.
writing some positive reflections. That's a very cathartic, healing thing for.
I love her stuff.
Or artwork. I'm not much of an artist, or I told you I love to do design work, but to pick up a paintbrush, that's very healing, or to go get some of those adult coloring books. I just think anything people can find to break away from the negativity in their life and just find that peace and calm, get centered, listen to the voice, and then hear, all right, what is it I'm supposed to do next? As opposed to just coming from this pissed off, angry place that their child has, X disorder. I don't know. I just think being part of the solution versus the negative energy is the way to be.
Yeah, I hold that in my, in my head, part of the solution. I love that. You mentioned that when we talked a few times ago, keeping that in the background, how do I get to the point where I'm part of the solution, at least in my thinking? Some days are easier than others, as I'm sure you know.
And you know what?
Yeah, those are awesome suggestions.
Well, and for me, I would like to get a little bit more knowledgeable about what it's what these families are going through. So your podcast is actually helping me because you introduced your daughter. And
Oh, thanks. Yeah. And I do have some coming up that, I'm trying to get, like I said, a range of experiences. So the next person that I'm talking to has a son that's more involved, and I'll be interested to see her perspective as
meaning
well.
that he's more high functioning? Or
No, he's had more manifestations of TSC seizure issues, and so more involved as far as his TSC manifestations. That's all I mean. Yeah.
Right. So I think for me, so I can develop a little bit more empathy, not that I don't have empathy.
No, you definitely do.
More of an understanding of what these parents are really going through on an ongoing, daily basis. So I think going to Capitol Hill or, a big convention would be really eye-opening for me. So I do plan to be part of the upcoming spring walk. I have to say, I'm a massage therapist. I've always had to work on a Saturday when these walks crop up. So Justin has gone with his brother, his sister, his dad, and I went, a couple years ago. But it's time for me to go again. It's time for me to get involved. And
you will. You're doing a lot. I mean, all your different projects that you have going and your website. I looked at the Shine the Light project is really impressive.
I had to take a step back from my
advocacy.
Because I've been, going through this very amicable divorce, but, slowly but surely I'm getting myself back on track and just figuring out what's my direction. And my mantra has been that I'm following my true north. It really is true.
I love that. Yes.
Every road that I follow, I'm getting more and more empowered and moving closer to my soul's purpose. So I do see a website coming involving True North healing. And healing, just so you know, healing can be pretty damn ugly. It is not a pretty process. And it's taken me, 6 years or more to move through this.
I can relate.
Spiritual awakening. And now finally the gifts are showing up, or they have been showing up, but now I finally feel like I'm grounded and centered and I know the direction I'm going in. So I see myself interviewing people like you who are also following their true north and, standing in their truth and not afraid to say, hey, this is my life. It is so imperfect. And this is what I'm doing to make it better. Because I think when we do that, I've mentioned this before, the windows and the doors start to open and the opportunities, the people show up, and then the floodgates are open.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So
really
that's
good.
what it's all about. I'm far from perfect and have a lot, I have a lot of healing to do surrounding this whole depression and anxiety issue. I'm so happy that Justin did not take his life. I mean, he did honestly have a belt around him. I mean, to hear that in the middle of Hartford Hospital with however many strangers in the audience, it that was a heavy thing to hear.
You never forget that moment. I mean, not that it has to be continue to be, a negative memory, but gratitude.
No, but what I did love is that he actually said to me, hey, Mom, should I include this in part of my speech when I talk to the kids at school? And I said, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's so many kids who are depressed and anxious and crying out for help. And that spring, when he was graduating, I must have gotten close to 20 private messages from parents saying, thank you to your son.
Wow.
For his honesty and truthfulness and for being a voice, because my child came home from school. Imagine your high school kid coming home from school and talking to you.
Imagine, right? That's beautiful. Yeah, I feel like tearing up a little just hearing that you're talking about that.
I really do feel like Justin's purpose is twofold, as well as mine. Not only the anxiety piece and depression, but the TSC work is definitely important. And And teaching my kids to speak their truth. There's a saying out there, speak your truth no matter how much your voice shakes.
I like that.
Something like that.
I love it.